Voiceover Coffee Shop, Episode 17.
Welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we share our morning with some of the finest names in voiceover. And now, here's your host, voice actor Andrew Morrison.
Hi there. My name is Andrew Morrison, and welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we start our day with some of the finest names in voiceover. If you'd like to know more about me, feel free to visit my personal website at www.voicebard.com. In this episode, we have coffee with my dear friend, John Patneaude. John is a voice acting champion, video editor, and motion graphics designer who has lent his voice to projects such as Havoc Fox, Synthetic Lover, and Forward the Anime, to name just a few. In this episode, we talk about developing your internal imagination, the emotions behind your words, and creating an amazing audition. How are you, John?
I'm good. Voiceover champion? I wouldn't. That's a bit of a grandiose title, don't you think?
So how do you take your coffee, John?
I take it black every single time.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
how did you get intermingled into the voiceover industry?
Oh man. Before getting into voiceover, I wanted to be an actor, just straight and plain. I wanted to be specifically a theater actor.
Mm-hmm.
The acting bug bit me when I was in high school. I did theater from freshman year to senior year, and then senior year, when I was looking at colleges, I auditioned for one theater school because I think that was my parents didn't want me to go to school out of state. I'm in Florida right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want me to go out of state, so I auditioned and was accepted into this. It's not like a real college. It was like a 2-year conservatory that was umbrellaed under a community college called Florida School of the Arts.
Okay.
And I auditioned. You're supposed to do a dramatic monologue and a comedic monologue. And I auditioned and I got in, and I was like, oh man, I felt really good about myself. And I was telling the other kids in the drama club, and I'm like, oh guys, I got in. And they're like, yeah, they accept practically everyone who auditions. And I'm just like, oh, cool. Great. All right. So, because I was riding that high of yeah, I'm good enough, and they were like, no, they just accept anyone who speaks in front of them. And I'm just like, why you got to do that?
Well, that's not so bad. I mean, I can see that as kind of like a gateway initiative to where they're
Yeah.
like, hey, if you're willing to put the effort into putting in an audition, then we're
That's
willing
true.
to kind of look at that and here's what we have to work with so we can kind of mold that.
That's true. Going back, I was accepted, but my parents, sort of sat me down and convinced me, hey, we're not sure about this. We want you to have an actual education that will guarantee you a job after school. So we ended up compromising, and instead I ended up going to a very overly priced art school called I go to Ringling College of Art and Design. It's yeah. You might be familiar with because you're in Georgia, right? Are you familiar with the Savannah College of Art and Design?
Yeah, Scat. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very
that's our
familiar.
rival. Although,
Okay.
yeah, okay. I'm a motion design major, and I love my faculty. My faculty are amazing, and the things that they've been doing have been really good.
Mhm.
However, the higher ups at Ringling, they run it more like a business than a school, and they don't really. They've sort of been netting some kind of bad HR over the past few years, and that stuff that I don't want to get into because that's not what this is about. Yeah. But anyway, I'm a freshman at Ringling, and I'm super sad because I've stopped acting. And it was winter break of my freshman year that I discovered the online voice acting community, and discovered, that a lot of people were doing their own animated projects, their own audio dramas, and, making their own independent video games and hiring voice talent from everywhere. You didn't need to, because before I was interested in voiceover, and I was aware of who voice actors were as early as middle school, but I thought, but interview I saw with Tom Kenny or Tara Strong,
Mhm.
they're like very well known for voiceover, but it was something they tried. They went to Hollywood to pursue being, an on-camera actor, and voiceover was something they fell into. So I
Right.
thought, oh, that's like the one and only path to become a voice artist. You do like film and stage acting, and then you just sort of, fall into voiceover. I thought that was the only way to do it. But it was, through the online voice acting community that I realized, oh, this is something that I can do from my own house. I don't have to, sacrifice so much of my time doing 8-hour rehearsals every night for a
Right.
musical. Which that was fun, don't get me wrong, but part of me doesn't, miss those days. Uh, and it was something that I could start doing for my own house. So I invested in a microphone, and I started auditioning almost like three years ago to the day. And it was I had a sort of silent arrogance about me, because I thought, oh, because I've done theater, that means like I'll start booking right away. I didn't
Right.
book anything for 8 months. Took me
Jesus.
8 months to book like a single thing. It was partly because like I wasn't like auditioning every single day. I was auditioning semi regularly because I was, still in college and stuff, and
Mhm.
had to deal with that. But also I didn't make the I was not an actor. I learned that like I was not a very self-reliant actor yet. I wasn't bad, but I was only good when I had someone else to react off of. And I needed to develop like my own internal imagination to really make whatever scenario or situation I'm in real to me, and make the reactions that I make, serve the scene. And that came with practice, that came with classes, and that came with, getting feedback from friends in this community. And it took me a while to actually, reach out and connect with people, because I'm a super I don't know if you were able to tell, but like I'm a super shy person. And that's
Right.
why, cold networking and just, going out of my way to say hi to people is so hard for me. It's gotten easier, and I've made progress, but it took me 8 months to make one friend
Jesus.
in this community. But yeah, it like last year I think was, even though it was kind of a shitty year for everyone given
Mhm.
the pandemic, it was probably the most successful year I've had as a voiceover artist. That was when I was booking a lot more uh, principal and lead roles in video games. I got into a few animations, and I was actually it's funny. I was in a position that I didn't think I would be in when I started doing this, which, um, upon reflecting on it, it's just like, yeah, it's true what they say, albeit how simple it is. If you just keep moving forward and just keep, fighting through you know, the the mediocrity that you're doing versus like the image that you have in your head, you'll eventually like what you put out to the world will match like the quality that's in your head. Um and Yeah, and I'm still going. I'm a senior in college right now, so this has been like almost like a 4-year journey for me. Um and I haven't had as much time to do it now because I'm knee deep in thesis right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And in fact, also I'm not even like at my house right now. The place where I'm recording to you from, and the reason why I can't like use a webcam, I'm in like a 2 foot by 5 foot sliding door closet that I've acoustically treated so I can sometimes audition for stuff. It sounds good, surprisingly, but I can't stand up. I have to sit down on a stool, and my back hurts every single time I do this, but it's fine. Uh, I just have to endure this for like 3 more months until I graduate, and then I can, go hog wild with other stuff.
So in between when you weren't booking stuff and you started to book, you said you mentioned that where you started to kind of use your imagination as your scene partner. What were some of the tools that you utilized to develop that?
Um, well, for me, it was a lot of I really developed. I I had to be honest with myself and realize that um I didn't. really have a technique going into voiceover or into acting, period. I just sort of, it was just something I sort of did. And I say the one thing that I picked up really well from doing high school theater was I took for direction really well. But you know, I needed to learn how to self-direct myself. Or that's kind of an oxymoron. I needed to learn how to direct myself. You know, because most of voiceover, unless, you know, you get a chance to do a Western cartoon, and have all your voice talent in the same room reacting off of each other, 90% of it is auditioning and you having to be confident in the choices you make. And some tools that really helped me were like some books that I bought. Off the top of my head, I think, okay, so the main book that I got was An Actor's Handbook by Seth Barish. It's more meant for stage and film actors, but there's a lot of great, just like small, like, they're not even, it's not like a huge grandiose like acting technique book. It's filled with like a bunch of small little tidbits that like can really help shape your acting. And then there was I bought this as an audio book, Notes to an Actor by Ron Morosco. That's another good book.
Okay.
I'd say the main thing though was Crispin Freeman's podcast. Crispin Freeman was the first voice actor I became a fan of, and he was the first person, like, I remember when I was working like in the computer labs at college, when I couldn't do voiceover because I didn't have time or I didn't have the environment, I would listen to Crispin's podcast, and that's where I learned about, you know, how to make a good demo, you know, the differences between a condenser mic and a dynamic mic, and all these little things that I just, you know, absorbed like a sponge. And also he talked about technique and how, you know, imperative it is to be able to, you know, like, to be able to direct yourself in an audition, because that's the position you're going to be in. It's like, you're not going to have, especially today, you're not going to have the luxury of, you know, having a director there with you to give you more context to the scene. You're, you know, you're a detective. Or I think the analogy that Crispin uses is like, you're a paleontologist and you've found like one tiny dinosaur bone, and you have to construct the entire skeleton just from this tiny dinosaur bone. And the thing is, as a paleontologist, you've seen a lot of completed dinosaur bones. So you use that frame of reference to, you know, help you in your performance. And I have a Rolodex of things that I've seen, whether it's like characters that I've already watched or people that I observed. And I'm just like, okay, if that person were here, how would they react in this situation? And I think it's really important, and this is something that I had to really train myself out of. And I think it's something that like every actor goes through. It's not about how you say the words. It's really about the emotions behind them. And even more so, it's about like the emotional response you are trying to convey from the other person you are talking to. And in an audition, the other person's lines might not be there, so you have to make it up. You have to make up, you know, the other person or the situation that just transpired before the line was said. And that's what I like. It's and like sometimes I get lazy. I'm just like, okay, let me just say this in like the most anime way possible, because that's what this character is. But I've been conditioning myself to really, you know, focus on developing a solid technique and focusing on being good. And a lot of that is, you know, down to practice and making sure that, you know what you're saying and why you're saying it. And
Right.
yeah, I think it's once you realize that, it sounds simple, but it's a really difficult thing to put into practice, and to, you know, because it's tricky, because acting isn't one of those things. It's not like, you know, bodybuilding, where like, oh, if I want to, you know, get muscles and stuff, I just go to the gym every day and lift weights. It's like acting, you have to approach it from a similar way, but technically it's like, okay, what do? Do I just, you know, because sometimes people don't have like the environment to practice acting. They don't have the money to go to acting classes. And for me, it was imperative to listen to those podcasts. And when I could, another thing that really helped me was practicing sight reading, just taking out anything, whether it was a cereal box or the back of a video game case, and just reading it out loud and trying to, first of all, pronounce the words correctly. That number one.
Right.
But also like developing a story behind it, like pretending that, okay, I'm in this situation and I have to say this to someone because of this reason. And just, playing those games in my head. Yeah, I still, I'm still working through the kinks of my acting, and I'm still always trying to improve. But yeah, I think it was through voiceover that I think I became a much better actor. And if I were to return to stage or something, I think that would come to fruition. And like, I think people could see that if I were to do stage acting again, which I don't know if I'll ever do, but I want to, though.
So what kind of bold decisions do you make in developing characters? What's your method of character development?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I think sometimes it all falls down to how I would react if I were this character. How would John react, and like the similarities between me and this character and the differences between me and this character. And so if a character is already similar to me, then there isn't really a lot of work to be done. I just react the same way I would react. But if a character is really different than me, then I, amp up the things that are different in me versus this character to better portray them. Like if I'm playing a character that's more dark and brooding and kind of, very deadpan and kind of snarky, there are aspects of that in my own personality, but they don't show 24/7. So
Right.
I recognize those similarities, and I just, make sure they're to full fruition. Well, often too, and this is really helpful, they have like a picture, or some characters will have like a description of like what they want the voice to sound like. And so sometimes I'll just, try and do my best to give off the sound of like what they want. And sometimes if I think I have a better idea of what I want a character to sound like, then I'll do that. There was an audition that I did where like sometimes it'll give off character references for vocal type, and that's really that's really helpful. And basically they were, like the character references that they had were people like April Ludgate, Captain Holt, and like basically like these very deadpan, hilarious characters. But when I was reading the lines and I was like messing around with the voice, I'm just like, what if I did like a John Mulaney impression for this character? So in that regard, I give them two takes. I give them a take of what they want, and then a take of what I want them to hear. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, sometimes you think of like a funny choice that you're just like, I think this could work, and then you just gotta you gotta convince yourself like, no, this is like what I want to do, and like fully commit to it. You can't just be like, la-di-da about it, or else it's not going to seem authentic, and it's not going to seem like you're confident about it. Be confident about your choices, whether they're right or wrong, because even if like you're making the wrong choice, you're making the right choice for that situation that you put yourself in as the character.
So in getting auditions, do you have what are you doing marketing wise? How are you kind of building the amount of auditions that you get in, or the amount of auditions accessible to you?
That's a great question, because I'm still not a great marketer as of right now. That's partly due to the fact that I don't have time right now, especially because I'm still in school. I'm still trying to, balance that with video. The main places I look are on Twitter. So I follow a lot of people who retweet and post casting calls on Twitter. I've become friends with a lot of casting directors, and sometimes they'll email me auditions. Like it'll get to a point where I'm just like, oh, I didn't even realize that I was like on this roster. Okay,
Right.
thank you. Uh, and that's where, and that's where it helps to just, be friends with people. Don't think of it as networking. Just be friends with people and develop like a relationship with them. And, if they like you and they think that you're right for something, they'll send something your way. And that's how I got a few characters. Um, and let me think. So, Voice Acting Club, that's another big place where I look for auditions, mostly on their Discord. I don't go on CCC, Casting Call Club, that often
Mhm.
anymore. I used to, though. That, like, when I was first starting out, like, I would audition there every single day. Like, that was, like, the,
Right.
the one place I had access to where I could, look at new auditions. Um, and then, I haven't been auditioning there lately, but I did join voices.com to get um like commercial and e-learning experience,
Mhm.
and that was faring well, but now I just, I with the position that I'm in right now, I can't afford to do like a 24-hour or 48-hour turnaround, because there are like too many factors in play. Like I have assignments to do, and then also I have roommates that I live with that I don't want to, that, can affect the they're loud. I was trying to be nice about it, but they're loud. Um and yeah, so I'm still that's the I've mostly been focusing on how to better myself as an actor, and I've let, you know, bettering myself as a business, as someone who does direct market, fall by the wayside. Um and it's definitely something that, I can improve upon and should improve upon, but um I one thing that like I just, what, the main mantra that I want to live by is, be so, this is a Steve Martin quote, be so good that they can't ignore you. And that's
Wow.
not me being like, oh, I'm so good, they have to hire me. No, that's me being like, I want to be good, and I want to be good enough to that, so that people can recognize that and be like, hey, maybe I could use them for this project. And I feel like, it's more important for me to focus, for me at least, it's more important for me to focus on being the best actor I can be than for me to be the most networked actor I can be.
With Ringling, you work a lot in graphic design, correct?
Motion design specifically, which is graphic design that mixed with animation.
Oh,
So yeah.
okay. So how
Uh,
did you get it into starting your demo reel card business?
well, I needed money, so
Because
I
they're
was just,
really good.
yeah. Yeah, well, that was, I was just like, okay, how can I use like my degree to, help me not only, uh, interact and network with people in the community, but also, provide a service for people. And that's when I was just like, oh, I could, make this. And like, they didn't really have like a name.
Mhm.
Like, so I sort of dubbed the name. I don't know if anyone like used it. Someone probably used this name before, but I just was just like, hey, I make demo cards if anyone wants them. And it was just, it was meant as like, because I don't make them, purposefully don't make them super expensive, because you don't, it's one of those things where, um because of like how popular they've gotten,
Mhm.
it's gotten to a point where, Amanda Hufford, who's like a notable, demo
Mhm.
reel director in the community, like had to make a tweet being like, okay, listen, to the people asking if like demo cards is like part of like my demo package, it's not, they're not like a requirement, and they're not. It's like, it's like a little cherry on top to put on your Twitter profile, or any profile that supports video. And I think I made one for myself, when
Mhm.
I got my first demo made, and I got a lot of, positive feedback. I got more positive feedback on the demo card itself than my demo. And I'm just like, okay. Um, but then I thought, hey, I could help other people out in the community, and that's when I, opened up commissions. And so far it's been serving me well.
Well, personally, that's actually what lured me to listen to your demo because it was very eye-catching, and I've noticed a lot of demos that have it. I'm like, oh, this looks really neat and really well designed. I'm curious what's behind it. So what you're doing is working. Do you have a website that you accept commissions through?
Yeah, it's hold on, let me link it to you. It's kind of I made it on card, and it's with the free domain, so it's jpatcommissions.card.co. It's a very long name.
Okay, I will link it in the bio.
Yeah. Here, let me I'm just gonna DM it to you on Twitter. Hold on.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I do mostly demo card commissions, but I also do, voiceover commissions if anyone, wants any. I do video editing, and I do, actual motion design, which that gets expensive because that takes a lot of work depending on what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said you didn't imagine being where you are 8 months ago. Where do you picture yourself moving forward? What's at the center of your dartboard that you're kind of aiming at?
Well, so in terms of short-term goals, I want to and this is more, based off of, my major and motion design as a whole, but I'm trying to find work. I want to become financially stable first. And my goal is to find a motion design job in either New York or LA, preferably LA, because that's where the bulk of the type of work that I want to do is located.
Okay.
And try and transition from that career into a voiceover career. And I don't know how long that's going to take. It might take, 1 year, it might take 5 years, who knows? It might not happen, but at least I can say that I tried.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, just to give you the Spark Notes version, just move to LA or New York, become financially, independent, and then try and transition into a acting career.
Okay. So on the flip side of that, if you were to write a letter to yourself before you had started in voiceover work, what would that letter say?
Oh, that's that's an interesting question. Oh man, I wanna sound super profound and like smart in this letter to my past self. Hey man, how you doing? Listen, so the thing that you're about to embark on, it'll be one of the most, important, anxiety-inducing, but also, fulfilling experiences that you will ever go on. You'll meet so many friends that you will, keep for a lifetime, and have so many positive experiences that, you didn't have access to before. And even when you wanted to give up and you felt like that what you were doing was pointless, you never gave up. You were too stubborn to give up. And I'm still too stubborn to give up now, and it's 3 years later. So anyway, go do your homework. Bye.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This was super fun. Thanks.
I really hope you enjoyed listening to John talk about his experiences balancing life as a voice actor and a college student, as well as the amazing mindset he holds on to keep pursuing his career as an amazing voiceover artist. If you'd like to know more about him, you can visit his website at jpatactor.com. That's jpatactor.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Voiceover Coffee Shop. For more information on guests, new episodes, and more, be sure to visit www.vocoffeeshop.com.